everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOC Reader, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my April reading wrap-up. So April was a month. I already kind of knew that I wasn't going to do a lot of reading during the month because I did have my vacation that I had planned for months, and my vacation was right at the beginning of the month. So I knew like those first 2 weeks I really wasn't going to get too much reading done because I was just busy with the family. It was Easter. Stuff was happening. I wasn't like in a rooming situation where I could just like stay up late and read. So all that I already knew off the bat, I wasn't going to get a lot of reading done during the beginning of the month. But I thought for sure like the end of the month, like I was going to pick up and read so many books, and that's just not what happened. But I did find some little gems in here. It was a light reading month, but I found some good stuff, so let's get into it. First book of the month was Mermaid and Pirate by Tracy Baptiste and Liesl Adams. So I am already familiar with their work. Like Liesl, I read her graphic novel, and Tracy I've read a couple of books by. So I was kind of excited to see them pair up for this book, especially since they're both Trinidadians. We love to support Trinidadian authors and artists. So, and I love mermaid stories. I am the kid who was obsessed with mermaids. Everybody knew I was obsessed with mermaids. I had all the mermaid books. I had like little mermaid like nightlight. I had mermaid pajamas, like dolls. I loved mermaids, and it's really cool now to see so many black mermaids. And not only do we get a black mermaid, we get a black pirate in here. And so I was lucky enough to be gifted this copy from Algonquin. Really do appreciate it. Like, it's just about a mermaid and a pirate. Like, they don't speak the same language, but they still become friends anyway. I think it's a super cute story, especially since with May and Little Mermaid coming out. I'm excited to pass this one along to my niece. I think she'll really enjoy it and have a lot of fun, and it's just great representation. The next book that I read during the month was one of the Spooky Sleuths books. So this is the first one in the series. It is by Natasha Dean with illustrations by Lissy Martin, and this one is The Ghost Tree. So I was intrigued by this because I had been meaning to pick up a Natasha Dean book for a long time. She is a Guyanese author. Again, I love to support my Caribbean authors, and I took this with me on my trip to Guyana because I figured what not a perfect place to read it, because it's like based off of Guyanese folklore, and this is just a fun, quick, spooky chapter book. My niece does like these spooky stories, so I think she's going to really enjoy them, because I've been really trying to push for her to read these like more chapter books. And like I said, this is the proper length for her. It's less than 100 pages. Very easy to read. I like that it mixed like science in a little bit, because we have a character who believes science can explain everything, but clearly there was something going on with this funky tree in the middle of town, and it was causing like their teacher and other adults to act up. So the kids have to go out and figure out what's going on and stop it. And then there's some detail on the legend in the back of the book. So this was an interesting read, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. The next book that I read was from the Isla of Adventure series, and this one is Welcome to the Island. It is by De La Costa, illustrated by Anna Sebastian, and this was a great chapter book as well. So I like that this island is kind of like similar to Puerto Rico. There's a little bit of Spanglish mixed in. We're following this girl who lives on this island, and she has the ability to talk to animals. So animals have been her best friends for so long, and then one day she gets a new neighbor who came from the big city, and she's not quite sure how to talk to her, how to connect with her at first, but they find a way. It's just super cute, a great story about friendship, and just a great easy reader. I also read book 2 in the series. And this is like a series that I'll be continuing on with throughout the year. Again, I do find it really cute. Like, I can just imagine giving it out to some of the kids in my neighborhood because I think they'd be able to see themselves in it. But in this one, we're still following like Isla Verde and her new friend Tora. This time, they're going to Isla's family cabana on the opposite side of the island, and they are on the hunt for a mermaid after Isla's abuela tells her about this mermaid who a sailor fell in love with. So again, more talking to animals, more of the island, and just more friendship. So it's another really cute, quick read. Magic Corrupts, Magic Conquers by A.J. Locke. So I'll try not to get into too much about this because it is the second book in a series. I loved Magic Dark, Magic Divine. I have a solo review of that book here on my channel if you're interested in it. But basically, after the events of book 1, where everything, it was almost like reset, we're experiencing this new world that is like a combination of the old worlds, and Pen is struggling because all eyes are on her now. She's kind of like a little bit of a viral celebrity, and there are all these different threats coming at her and her friends that they have to deal with. So it was very action-packed. I didn't love it as much as I loved Magic Dark, Magic Divine, but I still really did enjoy it. This one focused definitely a little bit more on the friendship aspects and the connection between Pen and her best friends. And she made some decisions in here that are going to have some repercussions for book 3. Our Roof is Blue, and it is by Sarah E. Echenike and Ashley Vargas. This is another picture book that came out during the month of April. And I was very lucky to get this from the publisher, Charles Briggs. Like, they were amazing, actually, because they sent me 2 copies. So their intention was to send me it in English and in Spanish because they simultaneously released the English and Spanish versions at the same time. But then they accidentally sent me 2 Spanish copies, so then they just sent me another English one, which was great because I was able to pass them along. Like, one I gave to an old coworker because she spent part of her life growing up in Puerto Rico, and she has godchildren she adores and spends so much time with, so I know she can read that to them. And then I gave one to my best friend for her to read to her son. She also has family in Puerto Rico, so this is something that they can definitely relate to and share. But this story explores prepping for a hurricane and then dealing with the aftermath, because it is a very traumatic experience. Even though it happens every year, you can never quite fully prepare for what's going to happen, especially if something bad happens to your house, like in the case of this book where their roof was blown away. So it kind of explores dealing with that trauma and, you know, learning to feel safe again. And I thought this was very heartfelt, and I really felt for this one, and I will actually be sending this to my friend Kevin in Puerto Rico because this is definitely a story for the island kids. So, and I read The Little Mermaid. This is Ariel, and this is just a really quick reader. Like, The Little Mermaid books came out last month, and I was like happy to collect most of them. And I do like sit there and read with my niece all the time, so like we're trying to teach her how to read, so this is like perfect because it's very short. I adored the illustrations in this. They're like so good, and I love how they look just like Hallie. But this is just like a shorter adaptation of the movie for beginner readers. Alliance with His Stolen Heiress, and this one is by Lydia San Andres, and this was really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed her first book with Harlequin, but this was like, I think I like this one maybe a little bit better. So even though we're following another main heroine who is kind of sheltered because of a abusive family member who kept her locked away, I love that she wasn't overly naive, but she wasn't like overly progressive either. Like, it felt right for the time, which is sometimes historical fiction can definitely lose me, where it doesn't feel accurate for the time, especially when they're trying to push like feminism and stuff. Her brand of feminism felt realistic, and I like that she wasn't the shy virgin, because I hate that trope and it's so overused in historical fiction, especially in like historical romance. They always want like the shy virginal woman, and she meets this like man who's been around the block too many times, and he's like teaches her like his ways, and I really actually don't like that trope. So I was glad we didn't have that here. But so in this book we follow Amalia and we follow Julian, and Amalia hires Julian because she mistakes him for a bandit, and she hires him to fake kidnap her with the hopes of forcing her uncle to pay her inheritance. What she doesn't realize is this is actually the perfect opportunity for her uncle, that she's out of the way. So he's not paying the ransom. He was like, let them have her. And so when she's sitting there, he doesn't come with the ransom. She realizes something's wrong. She has to team up with Julian to go to the other side of the island to track down her uncle and sister, because her uncle is using this as the opportunity to marry her sister off to this wealthy family he wants to do business with. So I really like this little adventure. I like the peek into historical Caribbean. Like, this one is set in the Dominican Republic in a real city. So I love that. I read Catastrophe by Sherry Winston and Gladys Jose, and this is another chapter book that I was reading, and this one is actually really good for beginners, because for children who are like reluctant to read all those pages, it kind of has markers along the way, like, you've read this far, congratulations, or you only have so much more to go, or like, stop here and like ask yourself this question. And it was cool because we were following this little girl who has juvenile arthritis, but she's not letting it hold her down. Like, she has a service dog, and they like to go on little adventures and solve mysteries together. So when her neighbor's cat goes missing, this little girl, they call her Wednesday as a nickname. She gets her dog Wolf, and they go around the neighborhood looking for clues. And it does show you those very real moments where like sometimes her muscles lock up, or like sometimes the adults in the neighborhood are a little concerned about like her safety because she can't do the same type of physical activity that the other children her age can do. I thought that the disability rep was really well done, but not too heavy-handed. It felt very realistic, and it's just kind of showing maybe the kids who aren't familiar with that, like, there are kids like this out here, but they're completely normal, and you don't need to treat them like any different for the most part. So then I hopped into the Future Heroes series with Race to Fire Mountain, and it was a really interesting series because I read 2 of the books. I think there's 3 altogether, or there's about to be 3. I'll have to look into that, but basically it is by this team of people who call themselves Remy Blackwood, and I found it interesting because this was created by the founder of StoryMix, which is like this publishing company within the UK. They design these books and then they sell them to publishers. So, and it's Black owned, and they've been coming out with like a lot of great diverse kid lit for the UK audience. This one in the US is published through Glass. And so basically we're following this boy named Jarrell. he goes to his cousin's barbershop to get his haircut, and next thing he's like transported into this magical like world he has like dreamed about and kind of drawn, so it like seems familiar to him. And they tell him basically, you know, you're the chosen one, you're here to stop the evil. And we kind of follow him along with that journey. However, he can only stay in the world for so long before he has to go back. And I thought this was really well done. I like that it was like African inspired, and I like that it also, though part of it took place in the UK, we don't get a ton of representation of like black British people, especially in like their neighborhoods. So I like the beginning, and we're going around his neighborhood and getting to meet some of the different characters. But I also like the parts where he just gets to be the hero. And then I read book 2, which is just like him fighting another villain and some interesting creatures that we are familiar with, like manatees, but they can talk, and it was a lot of fun. To round out the month, I read Jana Goes Wild, and that is by Farah Heron. So I have 2 of her books on my bookshelf, like, because I had gotten one like at the Dollar Tree, like I saw it and I decided to pick it up, and then another one was sent to me, but I didn't actually get to read her books yet. So this was my introduction to Farah Heron, and this book is set in Tanzania during a destination wedding, which I found really cool. So we're following Jana, and so 5 years prior, she was like starting this new relationship with this man named Anil, and he seemed like perfect for her. Then she found out he's married, like, cause some girl texts her and is like, "You bitch, stay away from my sister's husband, da 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 da," and then she's like approaches one of her friends who is like his friend, and he's like, "What's going on here? Is he married? Like what?" Like, because he didn't tell her, like he never officially like filed for his divorce because he couldn't actually find his wife. So after this happens, she breaks up with him and then finds out she's pregnant. So I like that we didn't do the whole pregnant and hiding the child thing, because that is just so overdone, and I hate secret baby trope. Like, there's just no reason ever in these books that makes any sense for why the woman is hiding the child from the man, and then usually then the man is not able to be angry like he should be. So I like that we skipped all of that, and she actually did the right thing and like right away told him she was pregnant. So flash forward 5 years, they are co-parenting, but the way they co-parent is they co-parent through this app, so they don't ever actually have to really talk to each other, and she avoids him as much as possible. Like, when he comes to pick up the child, she will usually not be home, and her mom does the handoffs, and like she travels for work a lot, so she's already not home all the time anyway. And even though they have mutual friends, they don't all hang out in like a group together. So Jana is the bridesmaid in this wedding set in Tanzania, because so she and her mom live in Toronto, but her mom's family is originally from Tanzania. Prior to being from Tanzania, they were from India, because there are a lot of Indian people who years ago had moved to Tanzania. So they are part of that group of Indian people who moved to Tanzania. And so her Indian community in Toronto is originally from Tanzania. They're all going back to Tanzania for this wedding. They're at the airport in Amsterdam because like the bridal party and like groomsmen had this big like celebration in Amsterdam, and then she sees her ex there, and she's like, what the fuck, because he didn't tell her that he was going. to be a part of this wedding. Like, even though that's his best friend getting married, she just assumed he wasn't going to go because he had stuff he needed to do with his nonprofit business that he was been working really hard to start up. So originally he wasn't going to go, then he changed his mind and decided to go, and so she is stressed because she's never spent that much time with him. And then, like, he's a really good dad, so like she doesn't have a problem with that, but that their daughter is like forcing them to interact and be together and like all the time. You know, it's very hard because she still like has these feelings for him, and like they're getting stronger and stronger like the more time that she spends with him and sees with him with their daughter. So I actually really enjoyed this story. I thought that the stuff in Tanzania was great because you're seeing it from like somewhat of a tourist perspective, but because they're going to these different hotels and they're doing all these like activities like going on safaris and stuff, but you're also seeing like their culture and how they celebrate between their different foods and stuff from people who are very connected to this area, which I appreciated. I think that if you're a reader who doesn't like a lot of kids in a romance, this isn't the book for you. Like, we get a lot of her daughter, a lot of the daughter, and I mean, it made sense, like, especially if you are a parent or you've been around parents. Like, you don't have anywhere to put those young kids. They're with you. Sometimes you're going to be hanging out with your friends and they are around. It didn't really bother me, especially because, like, I'm at an age where I do have a lot of friends who have kids. So, like, with my best friend, a lot of times when I go to hang out with her, her son is there. So I'm used to, like, being around the kids, and I watch my nieces and stuff all the time, so that really doesn't bother me. But I know for some people that's, like, a no-no in their romance. They want the escape from the kids. Their daughter is present a lot here. Jana at times could get on my nerves because she kept, like, blaming Anil for her life being ruined. And, like, yeah, she did lose a job because because of his ex-wife's family called her job and complained about her being like a homewrecker and stuff, and we're spreading all these lies about her, and all this stuff happened. So she's still like internalizing and holding on to that. And then her mother keeps telling people that she and Anil are divorced, and it's like they were never married, but because out of wedlock pregnancy is like not a thing in their culture, her mother just figures it's better to tell people that they're divorced and they're just like the best of co-parents ever, even though they don't even talk, than to like have to deal with the shame of like the out of wedlock pregnancy and then like the whole scandal of him having been married. And then Jana is also trying to get this new job, which is going to be like a lot more stable and keep her in Toronto so she's not traveling all around the world all the time. And the person who interviewed her for the job is also on this trip because he is the uncle, like actual uncle of the groom. So there's like a lot of stuff going on there that she's dealing with. I will say it did feel a little lengthy at some parts. I think this book could have been much shorter. You've been on this channel before, you know how I feel about these almost 400 to 400 page romances. I feel like a lot of these romances can be condensed a lot, and this was definitely one of those cases where I felt like some parts were dragged out a little too long. But overall, I did enjoy it, even though again Jenna got on my nerves after a while. And I will definitely be picking up those other books hopefully soon because I am interested in reading more by this author. So that was everything that I read during the month of April. Like I said, it was a very lighter month. I didn't do like much heavy reading. I think May is going to be the month where I jump into some more heavy reading. Let me know if any of these books interest you. And if you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Leave me a little like heart emoji if you made it to the end of the video. And thanks so much for watching, you guys. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!